Good evening. It is 6 o'clock somewhere, and that's on the east coast of this great country in your federal city of Washington, D.C. I'm Robert McNeely. It's RSBN prime time. Vice President J.D. Vance gave some incredible remarks earlier today, or actually it was yesterday, but it was in the morning broadcast with Mr. Matthew Alvarez at the American Compass National Building Museum. And I was telling Matthew earlier today that I simply am not as philosophically aligned with other politicians quite like I am with our vice president. What an outstanding job he's doing. And it's great to see a young Republican in such a high office at 40 years young. J.D. Vance doing an amazing job. Tonight, President Trump will be at a soiree at the White House. You know, he knows how to host some of the big and best parties in all of the land. And we look forward to enjoying that tonight as you see the sun setting on our beautiful Capitol building. We have a great show in store for you tonight with Jim Paff from the Conservative Conference, also Katie Zachariah over in California to give us an update. But we are joined now by Jim himself, the president of the Conservative Caucus. Always great to have you, sir. Let's really kind of walk through all of the new developments with the big, beautiful bill, where it stands right now, and somewhat of a debate between allies with Elon Musk, President Trump, and a great press conference earlier with House Speaker Mike Johnson really laying down the law about an attempt to reduce that spending. But we have some other voices out there, including Congressman Massey, saying that people are addicted to spending on Capitol Hill. You've been there for years. What say you regarding this big, beautiful bill and where it stands?
Well, there is absolutely no doubt that Congress is addicted to spending. They love spending. They hate pulling it back. You know, it's going to be a really interesting test of Congress, this $9 billion of USAID funding and NPR PBS funding, to see whether this bill moves expeditiously as it's supposed to, and if it actually passes. I mean, it's just $9 billion. It's not even a rounding error. You can't get a rounding error out of $9 billion. So there is a real problem in Washington. Listen, there are some good things about the bill. The permanency of the Trump tax cuts, and then the new tax policy that came in is fundamentally excellent. Like you can't get Washington, D.C. over the last 3 decades to make any tax cut permanent. They always have a sunset where you have a big brouhaha about whether to continue them on. Moving forward, that they'll have to actually specifically in Congress raise taxes if they want to raise them. So that's good news. But on the other side of it, listen, there need to be a lot of reforms made in the way we do spending. And I talked about the rescission packages, the requests to pull back spending that Russ Vogt is doing on behalf of the president moving forward. But this bill did and could have had a lot more. There were some gains in the Medicare program that were reformed. They're not going to show up till next year. The SNAP program wasn't changed. Listen, we need in these direct welfare programs, Medicaid and SNAP, which is what we call food stamps, they need to have an able-bodied worker without children requirement at a minimum. You need able-bodied workers to have to work if they're going to receive these benefits. That reform in the Clinton administration radically transformed the program and really reduced spending. And there's a whole lot more from there. So I am with Elon Musk in my frustration with Congress, but I am very positive about the tax cut side of things. And however this passes, and I think it's going to, that's going to be a very positive net result.
Now, Speaker Johnson mentioned in the House GOP presser this morning that it would save an average of $1.7 trillion, or at least cut that much in the next fiscal year. So is the CBO scoring this all incorrectly? Are they as off as they were with the Trump tax cuts going back to 2017?
Well, the CBO is always wrong. Let's just lay that out there. Whatever side of this issue amongst friends, Elon Musk or Mike Johnson, you're on, the CBO scores are always wrong, always inaccurate. But that said, I mean, I don't know that we have $1.7 trillion of savings next year. I'm just going to have to wait and see that happen. No one has, to my knowledge, done competent economic analysis on that. If there is one, I haven't seen it, and it could be done. But listen, there are probably going to be more actual savings out of this bill that are presently being calculated. But Rand Paul's point about extending the debt ceiling another $5 trillion, that really is in so many ways a license for Congress to go $3 trillion in deficits next year. That's not the most valid argument, by the way. I love Rand Paul and have a great respect for him. That's not the best argument about this bill. The best argument against this bill is that they did not implement actual reductions in spending that they could have. There were Doge savings available here. They could have restructured the student loan program, which is within the mandatory spending that you can do in this rescissions bill. We back student loans, and all that does is allow what Joe Biden attempted to do, which is forgive those loans over time. We need to change policy like that, which they could have done. There are a lot of things. But $1.7 trillion, it would be great if next year we reduce spending by $1.7 trillion. That's yet to be seen because I don't see the policy yet. That's only going to happen if they pass these rescission bills that Rush Vote is sending over from the White House.
Now, break down some of that for us, because you are such an expert on the Hill when it comes to mandatory versus discretionary, all of the success of Doge in somewhat at least beginning that conversation of changing the culture with all the waste, fraud, and abuse that was found. But let's go to the points of Congressman Massey or Senator Paul and Senator Johnson, just playing a devil's advocate that everyone's on the same team and friends having a disagreement here. The reason for the House passing it, is it not because the Democrats are just going to be a blockade against anything Trump or anything MAGA or anything Republican? In addition to that, they want to ride the wave into 2026. What will the Senate do? Do you expect 2 different bills, 3 different bills? Will the Senate perhaps move Sean Duffy's plan for FAA and transportation over to another big, beautiful bill, perhaps? How will this break down in the Senate so that this can all come together for the president's signature?
Well, the Senate is definitely going to change the bill, and I haven't heard word yet that a second bill could come out. They really have to work off this platform, so they're going to make changes in the Senate and send it back to the House eventually. It's going to be curious to see if they're going to pull Sean Duffy's program out. I don't think you can rationally pull that out. That's a basic service of government, and you can still have all the cuts that you need and get the border money, which is also in here, as well as the FAA reforms, and you can get all that through this and have the cuts that you need. But if they pull the FAA thing out, then you've just created a much worse problem politically. I mean, you might not have a problem in terms of how you calculate the dollars, would be less money, but you would have a political problem because suddenly you're stopping something that really does need to be done. I mean, these are the things we should be doing in government, not this other crap that we place in these bills so often.
Now, if there's something you could take out of the House or make a revision in the House package in and of itself, what would that be?
Well, I would have more immediate Medicaid reform, and I would expand it further than they did. Like, they made some reforms in the Medicaid program, but it needs to rigorously address the 2 major factors that have caused, or 3 major factors actually, that have caused Medicaid to get out of control. The first one is to stop all the loopholes that have allowed states like California and Illinois and New York to launder Medicaid money into their state programs. That's literally been happening. It actually is a violation of the law, and you need to make sure that loophole is dealt with, because they want to give, the state program in California gives money to illegals who shouldn't be subject to these programs. The second reform that needs to happen is you need to have a full-on able-bodied worker work requirement. Any able-bodied worker without dependents should be working if they want to receive the Medicaid program. That would ultimately get a lot of these people off of that Medicaid roll, because they would have they would eventually be able to work into stable jobs where they're going to get insurance somewhere else. That's the first reform. And then the last thing I would do is I would make the reforms completely taking place at the end of this fiscal year rather than waiting till 2026. And that would mean, in October of 2025, because we need those reforms in place immediately. There is clear fraud and abuse taking place in the Medicaid program, and you got to get out of that as quickly as possible. And Republicans need to have, the willingness and the fortitude to make it happen.
And term limits might come into play there someday to get that going, as I know you're a big advocate, as I am, for those term limits. Now, there's some concern by Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia, mentioning on the House floor this afternoon that the one big beautiful bill should be about cutting taxes, securing the border, and unleashing American energy, not surrendering state power to the AI industry for 10 years. So this is kind of the first I've heard about this, even though I've been through this bill myself. It is so extensive, but she's concerned that we can beat China without selling our values. Do you have any fear over what's addressed with AI in regards to this bill?
Well, I think I'm with David Sachs on this. And for those who may not be fully familiar, the bill restricts for 10 years any states passing laws that to regulate AI in their states. I think I'm with David Sachs on this. I think we need good policy so we can catch up as quickly as possible. There's been a lot of shutdown of innovation. In fact, the Biden administration was doing everything they could to make AI a construct of a government program that only a handful of companies could have access to, and that would be fully controlled by the federal government. David Sachs is working in the White House to put together policy that leaves this in the private sector with some guide rails. And I think you do need some time to let that happen. That's probably going to be controversial for some people. I think there is a Commerce Clause reason for the bill to actually make that restriction. And I think I'm for that reform, because we want to have a consistent policy that allows maturity in that particular industry.
Now, Jim, there is an anti-Semitism problem in the United States. It was addressed by House leadership today, and we've seen a skyrocket of over 893% of anti-Semitic attacks, whether verbal, physical, or assaults, especially on our college campuses within the last decade, and especially within the last year, with almost 10,000 different incidents. How can this be addressed from the federal government to really make sure that our Jewish friends are safe and secure in the United States?
Well, first of all, Marco Rubio as well as Tom Homan need to move aggressively in the ways that they've been talking about to take away student visas from anyone who's involved. By the way, in my opinion, even in difficult protests, there is no clear First Amendment guarantee for someone who's not an American citizen. And if anyone in any fashion is participating, even in a manner that is not criminal, in these protests that turn violent, they should have their student visa immediately revoked, and then Tom Homan needs to work at getting them extracted from the country. We have got to be aggressive in this way. Now, if you're getting these kinds of protests that are organized and by American citizens with American citizen cooperation, you do have a First Amendment issue here, and it might be very difficult and challenging, but at least when we get the foreign component away, that's one of the key factors that is making this so bad. You've really got the intifada, as they say, internationalized by these foreign students who are participating in these. So that's got to happen immediately. The next thing that needs to happen is that Donald Trump needs to continue to aggressively refuse states and localities from receiving any authorized federal funds if they're not taking action on these. And then lastly, the FBI needs to step itself up, and they need to do investigations on these things. And any federal crime, there needs to be an aggressive and purposeful effort to get these people before a judge as quickly as possible, citizen or non.
Clearly some civil rights violations happening, and some great points today, Jim. Thank you so much, because it reminds me of Bill Clinton's tenure and the great work that he did. I give credit where credit's due, with Newt Gingrich when he was Speaker, when it came to welfare reform, and also that 1995 speech before Congress, the State of the Union, if you remember, we are a nation of immigrants, but we are a nation of laws. And then even Al Gore, the climate crazy person that he is, decided to clap for his president at that moment. Always a pleasure to have you, Jim Paff, president of the Conservative Caucus. Where can we find your latest, greatest work for not only your organization, but everything that you're talking about on a daily basis?
theconservativecaucus.org. Also, you can follow us on X at TC Caucus. And then my personal X account, which is very active, is Jim Paff, JIMPFAFF, on X.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to having you again on RSBN Live very soon.
Thanks so much. Good to see you.
Likewise. And always a pleasure to have Jim on. He really, truly is a subject matter expert, especially the process with all of these bills. And we want to bring that to you here on the network because, as they say, it's where the pudding is made, or the sausage, in Washington, D.C. And the proof is in the pudding, because this is an interesting time in our government. And of course, you put it all into place back on November 5th of last year. And this was your rally network. We still do those great rallies, of course. But we also like to bring you this live desk, whether it's early in the morning, later on in the evening, as you're perhaps enjoying a cocktail tonight before dinner time on this beautiful Wednesday, June 4th, 2025. Thank you to our sponsors here on the right side of history, All Family Pharmacy. These guys are really great for protecting your health because you should pay less for prescription medications. And President Trump signed that EO recently to go after Big Pharma because they've been abusing the American people. But now you can have a pharmacy that's truly on your side. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, code RSBN20 for 20% off. It is the best way to pay less for all these prescription meds, 200 essential pieces of medication to stock your cabinet with, or you have the methylene blue to ivermectin and the hydrochloroquine, along with other life-saving meds right there for you and your family. They have antibiotics as well as emergency kits. So think about all these crazy emergencies that have taken place in the last few months that are weather-related. If the energy goes out, what are you to do if you don't have that life-saving medication right there for you? But All Family Pharmacy takes care of it. And you can order online. Their doctors handle all the prescriptions, ship those meds directly to your door. And they'll do it even overnight. So no insurance, no hassle, just peace of mind. Keep your medicine cabinet ready to go. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Code RSBN20. You can scan that QR code as well for all of those deals going on now through June 30th. So a great thing to do in this summertime to get ready for all of those celebrations, and you can even have them on hand when you go on your summer vacations as well. So we're breaking down the big, beautiful bill that's been the big subject of conversation today and really the last week. And as Mike Johnson said, I think it's a good lesson for everybody. Speaker of the House saying that, Elon Musk and him might disagree on some minor things when it comes to the structure of this bill, but he's always welcome to call him anytime because of the great service he provided this country over the course of the last 130 days. And I can respect the fact that Congressman Massey may not like the size of this bill. What I don't respect is that he goes to the media and says, perhaps this is the reason why Elon Musk left the Doge efforts. No. Elon had a special employment vis-a-vis the United States federal government that ended after 130 days of service. Now, these things can be renewed. He's always welcome back to the White House. Of course, President Trump gave him that big golden key to the White House. He's always welcome to stay. And God knows, Barack Hussein Obama, he had his mother-in-law living there for 8 years, and she didn't do much to help the country. So I think it was great that Elon Musk decided to take time out of his busy schedule, leave his very lucrative businesses in order to help save civilization in our country. And he's always welcome within Republican ranks, within the MAGA movement. And he's someone who's a former Democrat. But we saw from the joint address to the Congress back in March just how insane the far left is in Washington, D.C. They did not stand for a young gentleman, DJ Daniel, who our thoughts and prayers are with him as well. He has this recurring diagnosis, now 3 tumors again, has survived brain cancer, sworn into the FBI by Sean Curran in a very moving moment, and those jerks could not stand up and clap for that hero kid. It's a golden era in America, and that's why the MAGA movement should not be separated by discussions, disagreements, things that might be a little bit different about specificity, because we are the big tent party. We are the big tent movement that welcomes everyone, regardless of color, creed, religious background, or wherever you call home in this great nation in your neck of the woods. So shame on Congressman Massey. This is my voice, my opinion on this, for even trying to push doubt, because he clearly has his own agenda on Capitol Hill of saying no, no, no. And as we saw today from True Social, President Trump talking again about how great Elon Musk has been in all of the work he has done on a daily basis to make America great again. So I digress in that moment, but that's what we have here for you. Positivity, as Speaker Johnson said, I can have a disagreement with a friend and they can always call me up. I'll never have the personal bitterness. We can disagree on policy, but my kudos, my hat off to Speaker Johnson for navigating, which was a 215 to 214 reconciliation vote, because it's the far left Democrat Party trying to stop progress in this great country. Thank you to our sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting for bringing you all of this unbridled coverage of your government as we await President Trump hosting a summer soiree so say that 10 times fast, at the White House, your house, the people's house, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. AngelPaste.com is your go-to for all things Miracle Cream to their natural mosquito repellent, which you could start using now as those bugs are out there. My goodness gracious, it is that time of year already. So experience that miracle today. You've seen me use it right here on the network, and my skin was literally glowing. I get that dry skin sometimes, mostly in the colder weather or the dry weather, and it was gone within seconds. These are great people, Christian owned. They hire veterans, and they're based out of Spring, Texas, just outside of Houston, and that's along that Gulf of America. They have an orange option that's filled with vitamin C. So good for you. And they also have a facial spray for guys and gals, so you can go out there and paint the town red. All natural, non-GMO, no chemicals. So you don't have to worry about this stuff that you might go and get down the street from a local store, and all of a sudden you read the back of it, you got 50 ingredients in there, and you're like, what the hell is red dye, this, that, or the other? Angel Paste doesn't do that. So angelpaste.com, experience the miracle today. Good Christians, good Americans, and great sponsors on the right side of history. Thank you for everything you do to keep us on air and sharing the truth with the American people. As we await at 6:23 Eastern, President Trump to host a summer soiree at the White House. And we're just breaking it all down for you, the American people. President Trump actually agrees with Senator Warren on something. Can you believe that is happening? As he posted on Truth Social this afternoon, that he is very pleased to announce that after all these years, I agree with Senator Elizabeth Warren on something. The debt limit should be entirely scrapped to prevent an economic catastrophe. It is too devastating to put in the hands of the political people that may want to use it despite this horrendous effect that it might have on the country and even on the world. As to Senator Warren's second statement on the $4 trillion, I like that also during this period of time as to make it as short as possible. Let's get it together, Republican and Democrat. Let's do this. So he actually re-truthed some of her comments saying, at Real Donald Trump, I agree. This is from Senator Warren's office. The debt limit should be scrapped to prevent an economic catastrophe. Let's pass a bipartisan bill and get rid of it forever. But jacking up the debt limit by $4 trillion to fund more tax breaks for billionaires is an outrage. And we know that that's really a narrative for Senator Warren. And probably no one better pointed that out recently than Secretary Bobby Kennedy during his hearings with Senator Warren and Senator Sanders from next door in Vermont. And Secretary Kennedy mentioned that, where do you get all of your lobbyist money, all of your funding to run again, re-election after re-election? And Bernie said, oh, we're not going to go there. We're not going to go there. Well, he did go there, and kudos to Secretary Kennedy, who stood up for the American people in this populist movement that welcomes conservatives and liberals alike who care about common sense. And we saw that this morning with the great coverage from Mr. Matthew Alvarez in studio with the vice president, speaking last night to the Compass Group about it's protecting the middle class in this country. It's common sense Americans raising their families, and they don't have the time for big think tank theories and just the games that are played in our beautiful federal city, but rather they just want to work an honest job, do what's passionate for them and for their families, and live a good, peaceful life. And that's what this movement is all about, MAGA and MAHA, in order to save this great country. So we're truly living in this golden era as we have 50 wins in the One Big Beautiful Bill. Here are 50 reasons why President Donald Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill is the best chance for this generation to pass critical reforms for which Americans voted. So let's break down some of that. It delivers the largest tax cuts in American history. This means an extra $5,000 in Americans' pockets with a double-digit % decrease to their tax bills. Americans earning between $30,000 and $80,000 a year will pay 15% less in taxes. So then you can start having that conversation about maybe the person, both in the spouses are bringing together full-time jobs, and then the kids might not have to go to daycare as a result of something like this. So this is really a win for the American people. It makes the Trump tax cuts permanent, preventing the largest tax increase ever. If the bill doesn't pass, Americans will see the largest tax increase in history. It raises Americans' take-home pay by as much as $13,000 and wages by as much as $11,600. It also reverses the spending curse plaguing Washington, D.C. The bill delivers the largest deficit reduction in nearly 30 years, with $1.6 trillion in mandatory savings. This is the largest single reduction in mandatory spending in our country's history, and that's what Jim just took us through in the earlier interview, that mandatory versus discretionary, and everything that Elon Musk worked very hard for. We're really seeing accomplishments of that in this bill. Is it purely what Elon wanted to see coming from the private sector? Oh, of course not. But it's also the step in the right direction in order to stop the bleeding. The bleeding referring to the bloated budgets, the pork barrel spending. Goodness gracious, when John McCain ran for office back in 2008, remember that line? That he didn't want to insult drunken sailors who knew how to spend better than Congress. And there's so much truth in that. It delivers no tax on tips and no tax on overtime. This makes good on two of President Trump's cornerstone campaign promises and will benefit hardworking Americans where they need it most, their paychecks. It also provides historic tax cuts for seniors who need that relief. Remember that back in Arizona. I was actually covering that campaign rally down in Tucson. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on senior citizen benefits so they could stay in their homes. Just common sense. It boosts Border Patrol and ICE agents on the front lines with the largest border security investment in history. This means funding for 10,000 new ICE personnel, 5,000 new customs officers, and 3,000 new Border Patrol agents to detain and deport at least 1 million illegal immigrants annually. And we've seen that with law enforcement. We've seen that with ICE and the Border Patrol cheering on this bill because it funds them to protect Americans from fentanyl poisoning, from the attacks, the rapes, the anti-Semitic behavior. We saw that with the Egyptian national whose work visa expired. Why the hell was he here? He lit a bunch of people on fire. Nearly a dozen. It should not happen. And this is preventable crime. And people like Tom Homan, Kristi Noem, Kash Patel, and Pam Bondi working hard over time to stop the invasion. It increases the child tax credit to $2,500 per family. Also, great tax relief, and it protects Medicaid for Americans who truly need it. As Jim was mentioning, this Medicaid funding to illegals. What is that about? This goes back to the Clinton years in the 1990s, that if you're able-bodied, you should not be on welfare, and that Medicaid benefits should go to American citizens, not illegal aliens. It's not a ridiculous standard. It's common sense. It's you paid into this. You should be able to receive your benefits. This bill eliminates waste, fraud, and abuse by ending benefits for at least 1.4 million illegal immigrants who are gaming the system. There's the door. And if you do it peacefully and patriotically, you're welcome back. Do it legally. Because there's people in Eastern Europe, in Ukraine, in Russia, the Belarus, among other countries, including beautiful Poland. They can't come over to this country. They can't be refugees thanks to what the autopen did for 4 years. They've been in the middle of a horrible war-torn situation. So these are the big problems President Trump is fixing on a daily basis. We're going to toss to a quick commercial break, but stick with us here at 6:31 on the East Coast, RSBN prime time, as President Trump participates in a summer soiree. We'll be right back.
You've heard how hard it can be to get access to medications like ivermectin, all the things they don't want you to take because they're actually effective and they don't cost all that much, right? You've seen that one before. So it's critical to have something like that on hand for any emergency and to be prepared in a time of crisis. And that's why I want to tell you about All Family Pharmacy. They're cutting through the nonsense, and they make it easy to get hard-to-find medications when you need them most. They'll provide the prescription, no hoops to jump through, no waiting room, no hassle, and they deliver it right to your door. All Family Pharma even lets you order in bulk so you can stay ahead of the curve. Head over to allfamilypharmacy.com for 10% off your first order. Again, allfamilypharmacy.com. It's simple. Get the 10% savings. Be prepared.
I'm Elmer Heinrich, the 91-year-old formulator of Immuno 150, an incredible nutritional supplement. There's nothing like it. Now, Immuno 150 is different because it contains 70 plant-derived minerals and 80 other nutrients. Dr. Linus Pauling, known for vitamin C, was instrumental in convincing me to get into the mineral business in 1983. He said the world is sick due to a lack of minerals in topsoil. He said the body needs 60 minerals, but the average food and supplement has no more than 12. That's the reason for Immuno 150. Since its inception, it has had a powerful impact on the lives of thousands of people who could not get any help from various supplements they took or their doctor. Now I suggest you try Immuno 150 to see what 70 minerals, CoQ10, and 80 nutrients can do for you. Look at the 2 videos on our website. Millions have. Now consider placing an order for Immuno 150 online or call our toll-free number. I know you'll be glad you did.
Welcome back to RSBN Live. Prime time for you, the American people. This is kind of an incredible thing that is being fed to us right now from the Ukraine regarding the conflict. We know President Trump spoke with Russian President Vladimir Putin today, but let's go live to this press conference with the Ukrainians talking about the ongoing conflict.
During this operation, nobody was killed. Nobody was killed. Just military charge.
Thank you. So my third point today was about plans, but not our plans, but Russian plans. Yeah. Here we have the map, the screen. So last couple months we have a lot talks about the ceasefire, about peace agreement, and Ukraine and all our partners put their efforts to bring the ceasefire to Ukraine. Of course, you hear that Russia tries to speak about that, but without any result. So meanwhile we were speaking, they are planning how to occupy the rest territory of Ukraine. We have information from military intelligence that till the end of September, Russia plans to occupy whole Donetsk and Lugansk regions. Till the end of this year, they are planning to create a buffer zone along the Ukrainian and Russia border in Sumy and Kharkiv region. And they are planning to occupy Kherson to the end of this year as well. And it's interesting, but they have plans even for 2026. The plan for next year is to occupy the whole part of Ukraine which is situated on the left bank of Dnipro River, and to occupy Odessa region and Mykolaiv region, to cut Ukraine's access to the Black Sea. So here you can make assessment what they think about in reality. Unfortunately, they are not speaking about peace. They are preparing for war. So this is all what I have. Thank you for your time and your attention, and I give the floor to Deputy of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, Sergei Boyer, please.
Thank you, Pavlo. Dear colleagues, I would like to pick up where Pavlo stopped and talk a little bit of what allows Russia to plan to have these aggressive plans. So we believe that what stands behind the Russian war machine are oil revenues and supply chain and industrial support from partners. As you can see, oil revenues are largely what stands behind the ability of Russia to have this high and increasing military budget, which grew 87% from the level of 2022. It's $148 billion. And this is what allows Russia to recruit people, to increase its, replenish its resources, but also to invest in the ramp up of defense industrial production. This is very important to put a stop to the ability of Russia to finance its war machine, to increase its budget, to mobilize its economy. Next page. Russia's oil and gas exports is not just Russia's problem. These supercharged profits enable Kremlin to unite its partners around itself through cooperation, strengthening Iran, North Korea, and China. Russia purchases machinery, components for UAVs, and ammunition materials from China. In return, Russia sells China advanced military aircraft, hundreds of aircraft engines, and armored vehicles. The same goes for Iran and North Korea. Moscow sends dozens of aircraft, helicopters, and advanced missile technology. Tehran and Pyongyang provide Russia with millions of artillery rounds, artillery systems, drones, and ballistic missiles. The weapons that Russia and its allies produce today is directed against Ukrainians. However, tomorrow, these weapons may make their way to other parts of the world and be used against the soldiers from the US or from one of the militaries of our partners. Next page. To tackle Russian aggression in 2025, we developed the defense strategy, which has three components: stabilize the front line, protect our sky, our people, our economy, and to impede Russia's ability to generate forces and ramp up defense industrial output. As has been mentioned in the previous speech, we largely stabilize the front line, and we have been quite effective to strike Russia deep in the rear, and you have seen the video proof of that. Next page, please. In maintaining and increasing our capabilities to fight, we're certainly very grateful to the US for standing with us through all this time. You have the best weapons that have helped our soldiers through all these years of war: Patriot systems and interceptors, fighter jets, artillery rounds, HIMARS and missiles for them, GMLRS ATACMS, air munitions, infantry fighting vehicles, famous Bradley and others. We are very keen to establish the framework for making the delivery of such weapons to Ukraine going forward. Next page, please. We also want to deepen our partnership with leading US defense companies such as Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, D&M, General Dynamics, BAE System. Our military is the biggest in Europe and has been the most active user and customer of the US weapons. We believe that US companies will find such partnerships valuable in increasing production of critical weapons that would keep all of us safer. Next page. Ukraine has developed a resilient and highly innovative defense industry, which we believe would make a good partner to US companies. When I joined the Ministry for Strategic Industries, which was responsible for defense industry development back in 2023, the industry, as you can see, was just $1 billion. Together we talk about $35 billion of capacity. One third of this is drones. We are the world's #1 drone producer. Our capacity is more than 10 million drones, what we can produce of all different types. Drones are taking over the artillery as the main lethality weapon at the battlefield. And so we believe that jointly with the US, advanced US technologies, we can really build up some new generation drone warfare capabilities that would make us win this war, be safe, bring peace to Europe, but also to build the capabilities that would contribute to the capabilities of the US and of all our partners. Next page. To summarize, I would like to emphasize that to compel Russia to pursue peace, we need to stop its ability to fuel its war machine. It is critical to enact sanctions on any country that buys Russian oil or sells components to Russian defense industry. On the battlefield, we need long-term mega deal of advanced US weapon supply. We are very keen to enter into co-production mega projects to produce advanced US weapons. From our side, we are ready to offer our knowledge and expertise in drone and other innovative products. These economic and military elements will form the foundation of our strengths, our joint strengths that will end this war and bring the lasting peace. Thank you.
Let me now invite advisor to the President and Presidential Envoy on Sanction Policy, Vladislav Zdrosov.
That's the Embassy of Ukraine in the United States, covering what's going on overseas, which has just been a terrible thing. If President Trump was president, we know this conflict would have never happened. And on Truth Social, he mentioned this afternoon that he just finished speaking by telephone with President Vladimir Putin of Russia. The call lasted approximately 1 hour and 15 minutes. We discussed the attack on Russia's various docks and airplanes by Ukraine, and also various other attacks that have been taking place by both sides. It was a good conversation, but not a conversation that will lead to immediate peace. President Putin did say, and very strongly, that he will have to respond to the recent attack on the airfields. We also discussed Iran and the fact that time is running out on Iran's nuclear program, decision pertaining to these nuclear weapons and everything that they're advancing on. But he believes that President Trump, this is President Trump speaking on President Putin, that he believes he's in agreement when it comes to Iran not being able to obtain the bomb ultimately. President Putin suggested that he will participate in the discussions with Iran, and he could perhaps be helpful in getting this brought back to a rapid conclusion. It is my opinion that Iran has been slow-walking their decision on this very important matter. We will need a definitive answer in a very short period of time. That was according to President Trump via Truth Social just a couple hours ago. as we await a beautiful summer evening in Washington, D.C. I love how the sunset hits our big, beautiful People's House, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, with each leader of the free world since John Adams, the second president of the United States, has called that executive mansion home since 1801. Think about that for a moment as we are about to celebrate 250 years of Flag Day, President Trump's birthday, which just coincidentally happens to land on that day. I think that's divine providence. And also the anniversary of the United States Army, which came into being a year prior to us even becoming a nation in 1776. Thank you to our sponsors on the right side of history, Mr. Mike Lindell, mypillow.com/RSBN. Half off, 50% off, a big 50 for the beach sale. mypillow.com/RSBN. Call today. Do not delay. 800-836-7566. Support Mike Lindell and RSBN in perhaps the most fun way possible with mypillow.com/RSBN for all of these great beach sales. And we know that a good day starts with a good night's rest. And the original My Pillow is your go-to. There's also My Coffee. There's My Slippers. There are the Percale sheets. There are the beautiful Giza Dream sheets. But now this beach sale, what a great deal from our friend in Minnesota, Mike Lindell. Maybe he'll run for governor of Minnesota. We could sure use some common sense up in the Great White Way, the Great White North up there in Minnesota. It gets cold. Wow, the winter is nasty. But this time of year, quite a beautiful place to enjoy thousands and thousands of lakes for camping, for fishing, for that good R&R that you all deserve. And the best way to do that, the beach sale through mypillow.com/RSBN. Thank you to Mike Lindell for sponsoring us on the right side of history. And of course, you can catch our newsletter with all of the great writings that are out there, all America First updates and exclusive offers at rsbnetwork.com/newsletter. It's your go-to. So not just the broadcast, which is lots of fun, but you can read in-depth op-eds or even analysis of everything happening inside and outside of the Beltway. We are your go-to live desk. We're also your go-to for reading great news articles when you're just busy throughout the day or in the evening or just tending to those matters at hand. Perhaps you like to scroll, and one of the positive things to do via social media, catch all of your RSBN content, whether it be on the app, on the website, or of course on your favorite social media network. Please like, share, and subscribe. Get the word out there, as rsbnnetwork.com/newsletter is your go-to for the written word. Thank you for being a part of it here on the right side of history. And it's really not even ideological anymore. It's the correct side of history, the populist side of history, the people's side of history, this coalition of traditionally conservative Republicans and traditionally liberal Democrats coming together. And how many people have you spoken to? I know I've spoken to several throughout the country, going back to the campaign trail, that said it really did not matter what political alliance or allegiance I once had. I wanted to vote to get President Trump back into office because of all the good he was doing on a daily basis. So we know that to be true, as we are joined by political analyst, strategist, and really subject matter expert on everything happening right now, Katie Zachariah. Welcome back to RSBN Primetime. Run us through some of this big, beautiful bill. We know a lot's going on right now. This is a 215 to 214 vote in the House. It's now to the Senate. How do you think this will all end? And do you think it'll get there to the president's desk come the 4th of July?
Well, it's going to be an uphill battle for sure in the Senate. I do think that we have a strong enough president and very good House leader and Senate Majority Leader to deliver this for him. What steps they have to go through in order to do so, I think will be fun to watch. The bill, though it's getting a lot of press right now, good and bad, I think I would encourage people to go through and read some of the major highlights. If we look back at the last 4 years of what Joe Biden did in his term while he was either cognitively aware or the auto pen was doing it for him, I'm not sure. We have a lot of damage. President Trump has inherited 4 years of not just mismanagement, but absolute negligence and really, really terrible decision making, to put it nicely. One of the things that President Trump has in this bill is refilling the strategic petroleum reserves. Now, Joe Biden drained these reserves to an all-time low. These reserves were set up about in the late 1970s. To secure our country in moments of crisis. So after Russia invaded Ukraine, Joe Biden started selling off up to 300 million barrels out of our strategic petroleum reserves. This is a very, a massive national security issue. And I think what is important here is that President Trump, this is part of the bill, and if people understood what it's going to take to bring those back, to restore them back to where they were 4 years ago, it's going to take a lot of money, and we have to invest in this. He's also delivering historic tax cuts. He's delivering, I mean, I don't think any government in the world has delivered, 1.6 trillion in tax cuts to the American people. So we are looking at a beautiful bill. I think it's going to be a little bit painful too. Some of these things need to be repaired. This is also, sorry to go on this point, but this is also border wall. The president has included the border wall in this, and this is absolutely critical as well to finish the wall that was almost finished when Biden inherited office or took office.
Well, these are some great points because ICE has endorsed this bill in a glowing fashion, including border security and local law enforcement because of all of the funding it does. And we're already, 99% secure thanks to President Trump, but this will really be the nail in the coffin for the bad guys. But you bring up some great points too about the last administration. Think about this. The Saudi Arabians, they went off the petrodollar for the first time in 50 years, ever since we went off the Nixon gold standard. They left that in 1971 with the agreement that the Saudis would trade and that we'd have that petroleum strategic reserve based for us. It would help Alaska. It would help really the Gulf of America drilling back when it was the Gulf of Mexico. And think about Russian collusion at the end of the day. Joe Biden opened up that pipeline when he shut down the beautiful pipeline that was going from Alaska through Canada down into the lower 48. So was this just something to enrich his family at the end of the day? What has gotten into the auto pen in his administration? I would hope that they didn't want to betray their country, but it looks like, treason might be investigated and pursued here.
Correct. The points you're bringing up are so critical as we start looking at, I think they really should do an investigation into what happened during the Biden administration, who was making these decisions, why didn't Kamala Harris and her powers as vice president invoke Section 4 of the 25th Amendment, where the president was clearly incapacitated, right? But some of these more strategic moves that he was making with energy, he released the sanctions that President Trump had on Nord Stream 2, the Russia pipeline to Germany. He released the sanctions, rescinded the sanctions on Iran, which then empowered Hezbollah and Hamas to invade and the terrible and tragic and devastating October 7th attacks, while cutting our Keystone pipeline, as you mentioned, and draining our strategic petroleum reserves. All of these created international chaos, a deficit for us in what could keep our country secure in another invasion, right? That's why those petroleum reserves are there. And President Trump is not only having to solve Russia-Ukraine and also put pressure on Iran, as you saw with his release statement with Putin today, that they talked about putting pressure on Iran so they don't develop a nuclear weapon. Joe Biden had done more damage in 4 years than I think any other president in history. I literally think he did the most damage to the country. And President Trump, through this bill, through one piece of legislation, is both delivering tax cuts and restoring our country in an attempt to restore our country back to where it was when he left office, which was a booming economy.
And that's why I just laughed at the CBO, because I think I was reading USA Today that they said, oh, this might put 2.2 trillion or so into the deficit over a decade, when we have roughly 12 trillion or so that Joe Biden put into our laps over the course of 4 years. I mean, even his president, Barack Hussein Obama, when Joe Biden was vice president, only did $8 trillion, which was like peanuts compared to what took place during the Otto Pence administration. Now, what do you think with this big, beautiful bill on the Senate side? So let's play devil's advocate, because there are some voices out there like Congressman Massey, Senator Paul, Senator Johnson saying, I'm tired of this big bloated budget, regardless of mandatory, regardless of discretionary spending. We have Elon Musk adding his comments as well, post his Doge days. Do you think the Senate will chop this up a bit? And how do you anticipate this really getting to the president's desk?
It looks, well, there is spending. And as we just reviewed, and there, we could go probably on for hours of all of the things President Trump is going to have to do to fix, and the House is going to do to have to fix what's been broken by President Biden. However, I think Massey tends to like to be the, contrarian, which always brings up great points. And at the end of the day, I think he's going to have to we don't necessarily need his support, but I think eventually at the end of the day, he'll come around to a lot of these. Senator Johnson, he just released, as a side note, released a report on the Biden administration's cover-up of what was happening with the vaccine and side effects for the heart. And so what I know about Senator Ron Johnson is that man digs into everything, and he digs deep. So I think what he will be able to do is maybe propose some potential places where they can cut and make everybody happy, but not in these major components that the president should be, and the House should be really proud of. I think Senator Johnson will come back with an alternative. However, as everyone steams ahead, I do see a lot of support with everyone else. Rand Paul and Senator Johnson and Massey all tend to be a little bit on the contrarian side. But there seems to be a lot of senators that are very excited about this. And I hope and pray that we see that on President Trump's desk before July 4th.
Yeah, it's really something that we probably would not have all of this happening right now if it wasn't for the Democrat blockade, because they seem to hate this country. And it's not the good people that are Democrats throughout the country. It's these elected officials in D.C. that are lockstep with Hakeem Jeffries, who really is under the control of Nancy Pelosi and all of those other types. But Katie, thank you for being with us. We have to toss to the president right now. Always a pleasure to have you on RSBN. We're going to toss it now live to President Trump at the soiree.
What a nice group. Look at them all coming back now. They were way out at that fence and they're coming back. They're running. Don't fall, please, nobody. We had an administration that fell a lot, and we don't want to have that. We don't want to have any of that. Well, I'm delighted to welcome to the White House the thousands of proud American patriots, and that's what you are, you're patriots. You know, we've never done this before. You know that, right? This is a first. They didn't do it. The previous administration wouldn't have thought of doing it. But we're going to do it for 4 more years. I don't know, maybe 8 more years. I don't know. But we love you all. You're really amazing, successful people all, and you just gave your heart and your soul. And we won every swing state. We won the popular vote by millions. We won everything you can win. And now we have a successful country. Doesn't it feel different? Different, so different. So many people say, go away, and all over the world they say it feels different. The whole world feels different, so it's an honor. It's a great honor, believe me, and we should all be happy about it because we're bringing it back like nobody would have thought possible. The event has, and I just tell you, was really the brainchild of a few of the people that happen to be in the audience. I won't bother to embarrass them by introducing them. They don't need that, but they just had this idea, and I loved it immediately upon hearing it. But this is the largest crowd so far that we can imagine to be on this lawn in many, many years. This is a big crowd. There's a lot of people, and this is all a group of people that love what we're doing. They love MAGA, Make America Great Again, and that's what we're doing. So I want to thank you all, and very particularly have some good food there. I know a certain place serves food, and I think you're liking it. I like it, but I think you're liking it a lot. I want to express my gratitude to just about all of my members in the cabinet who are here. They are here in great numbers. I didn't know what they were saying. They said, I'll see you tonight. I'll see you tonight. And I've been so busy between Iran, Russia, China, and every other problem that we were left that I'm saying, what the hell is happening tonight? And then I said, I'm seeing a lot of thousands of my friends tonight. But I want to thank the members of the cabinet in particular. They've been unbelievable. We have a great cabinet. You see the results every single day. Let me also give a big round of applause and welcome to our new White House interns. This is the very first day on their job. Really great. Julian Nicholas, where's Julian? Where are you, Julian? Are you out there someplace? I think so. Where is Julian? Where? Oh, look at him. Oh, is that? Wow. Good. You ever hear of the great Jack Nicklaus? This is his grandson, right? I immediately said, get him on board because he's got great genes. You can't get better than that. And, you know, especially so your grandmother, okay? Barbara, who's fantastic. So good luck. You're going to do very well. Thank you, Julian. Very good. Say hello. I wish I could play golf like Jack Nicklaus. It just didn't work out that way. But 6 months ago, we had a nation that was as cold as ice. It was cold. The whole world was laughing at us. And they're not laughing anymore, that I can tell you now. Because of the people here tonight, we have the hottest, most talked about country anywhere in the world. I went to the Middle East. We went to Qatar, Saudi Arabia. We went to UAE. We went to 3 stops. We brought back $5.1 trillion. Think of that. 5.1. They ordered massive amounts of military equipment, regular equipment, 200 Boeing aircraft, and we got one for free for the nation. You've been hearing that. The United States Air Force got one for free. I say, I'd like one because we need it as Air Force One until the other ones are done. And they said, we would be pleased to give you. So they gave us a Boeing 747 for the United States Air Force. And it's just incredible. The press picked it up and they said, he got a plane. I didn't get a plane. They got a plane. But that's the way it is. You're going to get to know as you deal with the fake news. And then eventually you'll get to love them. Maybe. I doubt it. Actually, I doubt it. But I want to just tell you some of the numbers that just came out. Rasmussen, a majority of Americans now believe our country is on the right track for the first time in 28 years. Think of that. First time in 28 years. That's something. And think of the achievement. And we did that in 4 months. You know, we haven't been here long, 4 months. And we're going to do a lot better than that. But who would think that for 28 years they thought we were on the wrong track? Because I know one thing, that 4 years ago, during our term, we were on the right track. We were doing a great job. And we had one of the most successful, that was one of the most successful terms ever. Then we had a little problem where they rigged an election, and then we came back. And this is bigger, better, stronger than ever before. This one is far bigger than it would have been. This is really something what's happened. We've created over 500,000 new jobs in a short period of time, secured nearly $15 trillion, new dollars, new investments that are going into our country. And if you notice, the inflation report came out this morning. We're at about 2% inflation. Can you believe it? And very importantly, because the people were devastated, the last administration, in my opinion, the most unsuccessful administration maybe in the history of our country. Grocery prices went through the roof. Well, grocery prices now are down. You remember they were talking about eggs. My first week in office, the press was screaming about eggs. Eggs have gone up 287%. I said, I'm sorry, I just got here. And the eggs went up. Now the eggs are down at the same price they were. We got them all the way down. And we had, 3 weeks ago for Easter, we had an egg hunt, an egg roll, they called it. And they said, sir, could you order, a couple of months ago, could you order plastic eggs? I said, we're not ordering plastic eggs. And by the time we had the event, eggs were all the way down. But think of it, grocery prices are down, gasoline prices are down, and they were down just in time. $1, we had numerous states, $1.98 a gallon, just in time for Memorial Day weekend. How about that? Good timing. You know, this all inures to you because you're all with us. This is a family. This is really a family. So when I do good, you do good. When we do good, we do good together. And that's the way I want it. Incomes are soaring, and in April, we achieved the largest drop in consumer prices, the largest increase in consumer confidence, both of them, in many, many years. In one case, we've never had such a drop. It's never been like this. We've never had this kind of success. I just hope it keeps going. You know, you do need a little luck, too. You know that. And sometimes you need a little prayer. Maybe all the time. We need a little bit of a prayer. But we're going to keep it going. In a single month, we also cut the trade deficit in half by 50%. Do you believe that one? You don't hear that too much on the news. They don't like to tell you those things. In a matter of weeks, we slashed the number of illegal border crossings released into the United States down to practically nothing. 3 people got in. 3. We had hundreds of thousands, and 3 people equates to 99.999%. How's that, good? I couldn't reach 100%, I'm sorry. And of the 3 people, I have to tell you, 2 of them were medical emergencies, okay? So I'm going to say 1 person got in. That was a piece of work, I guess. I'd like to meet that guy. I'd like to meet the guy that got in. Peacetime enlistment numbers. This is something we're all really proud of. It's a big deal. Peacetime enlistment numbers for every branch of our military, every single branch, are at the highest levels in modern history. And 7 months ago, we had the worst recruit. Think of this. This is done in 6 or 7 months. 7 months ago, we had the worst numbers in recorded history. Nobody wanted to join the Army, Air Force, Navy, Marines, Coast Guard. Nobody wanted. Or our police. Our police are likewise through the roof. 6, 7 months ago, they couldn't fill a position. You couldn't fill it in the military. Now it's hot as a pistol. We have the best numbers. Think of that. The best numbers in a short period of time in modern history. And that's something I'm very proud of. And that's because the people of our country, you love our country, you were devastated to see what was happening, and now you're thrilled to see what's happening because we have a hot one and we love it. We've achieved more in 4 months than most administrations have achieved in 4 years or 8 years, and none of this would have been possible without you. You're the ones that are really doing it. You're the ones that are making it happen. You really are. And someday, one of you, maybe 2 of you or 3 of you, will be standing right here saying very similar words. I hope you're saying similar words. But that's a real possibility because there really is this greatness in this crowd. There's greatness. You might not even know that, but there's greatness in this crowd. The caliber of talent we've assembled is unparalleled. This is really the strongest, most talented team that we've had, and I think that this government has had in a long time and maybe ever. I really think this could be the best team. We worked hard on it. In just 135 days, we've hired over 3,200 patriots to deliver on the mandate that we received in November. November 5th, we want to go down as one of the most important days in the history of our country. That's Election Day. We're going to make it the most important day. And as of tonight, we filled 91% of our political appointments. And I'll tell you, we have a waiting list. Likewise, we have a big waiting list of people that want to come over, work here with you, work in the White House. Every single department, every single agency has a waiting list of people that want to come in and be with us. The Department of Veteran Affairs has achieved already 100% staffing, all with people that we want. Really great people. The Department of Defense, Commerce, and Treasury is over 90% of the political hires. They're complete. It's a record at this time, so early. And the Departments of Homeland Security, Health and Human Services, Labor are all over and up to about 95% already. So that's incredible. I want to thank the great Chief of Staff, most powerful woman anywhere in the world, they say. She got the most powerful woman in the world. One phone call and a group of people, I better not say it. I was going to say one phone call and the country is wiped out, but we're not going to say that because we're a peace-loving nation. We are a peace-loving nation. Susie Wiles, where are you, Susie? There she is. No, she's great. And Sergio, thank you for the great job that you did. I appreciate it, Sergio. Sergio Gore. They have done a really amazing job. Susie, I'll tell you what, she's the first woman chief of staff in the history of our country. And I'm surprised to hear that. And I watch those men, and she watches over them, and if they get a little bit out of line, they may be big shots defense. They may be at commerce. They may be the biggest. They're scared of her. They're afraid of her. They don't want her coming after them. But no, she's been incredible. First woman chief of staff in the history of our country. Isn't that great? I'm surprised to hear that, actually, but that's the way it is. But most importantly, let me thank all of the appointees for your tireless efforts to deliver our promises and to put very simply, it's very simple words to words, America first. It's all about putting America first. And by the way, we're going to help other countries, but first we have to straighten out our country. Don't you think so? And it's not going to take too long. A very special thanks as well to your spouses and children, families and loved ones for the support that you've given us. And we're saving our country. This would have been a country, we were a country in shambles, and now we're a country that is just in love with itself, in love with its people, and everybody's talking about it. And it's such an honor to be involved with you. And without you, it wouldn't be happening, because together we've begun the golden age of America. This is now the golden age of America. It's a beautiful term and a beautiful country. And we're going to make our nation safer and stronger and prouder, richer, freer, and greater than ever before. And I can give you my word, I'm going to work so hard. We're going to work harder than any president's ever worked. We have to, because we got off to a little rough start. They gave us a very bad hand, and we've taken that bad hand and we've turned it into the best hand you can get, and you're the reasons why. And I want to thank you. We love you all. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good time. Don't eat too much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Great moment from the Truman balcony on the second level there. And I have some friends in the audience I was texting who work at that beautiful building, your house, the People's House, the White House, as President Trump participating in a summer soiree, beautiful evening, at the White House as the sun sets on the People's House on this beautiful Wednesday, just about 7:15 on the East Coast and 4:15 on that golden West Coast. Thank you for joining us on the right side of history. We always love to share with you the beauty that is this great country. And we are enjoying this moment today as President Trump is participating in the summer soiree. It's a beautiful time for this. Thank you for being with us here at RSBN as President Trump is participating in this summer soiree this evening. 7:15 on the East Coast, of course 4:15 all the way on the beautiful golden West Coast in this country. And I love when the sun sets right there at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. And so much happening today with the Russia-Ukraine situation. Also, the discussion over this big, beautiful bill and all of those main cornerstones President Trump delivering on every single day for the American people. Those 20 promises that came from the campaign trail really being gobbled up into this one big, beautiful bill. The House passed it 215 to 214. We'll see what now happens in the Senate with expert analysis from Jim Path at the Conservative Caucus and political strategist Katie Zachariah joining us on this beautiful evening. Always a pleasure to present it to you, the American people. This unbridled access as RSBN, your go-to live desk for everything America First. Thank you to our sponsors, All Family Pharmacy. This is something President Trump signed that big, beautiful bill going back a couple of weeks now. This EO that was focused on bringing costs down for you, the American people. We could tell you one pharmacy is out there actually fighting for those things. Pay less for prescription meds with 20% off now running through June 30th with code RSBN20, allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Pay less for prescription medication. Scan that QR code now. Right on the list there, allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Your go-to for methylene blue, hydrochloroquine, also ivermectin, among many others, whether it's emergency kits to 200 much-needed prescription meds that make sense for you. Because imagine this, there's an emergency that takes place and then your cabinet, your medicine cabinet, is empty. What are you to do in that situation? We've seen it with so many countless situations over the last few months with crazy weather. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, your go-to. Again, code RSBN20, 20% off now through the end of the month. And once you get your health all lined up and protected and those proper medications to protect you and yours, how about some financial savings that might turn the tide for your retirement? Colonial Metals Group, the best group out there. Judge Jeanine Pirro, who is now serving as the interim D.C. prosecutor at the federal level thanks to President Trump, she loves this group. So do we here at RSBN. They truly are the best in the gold business. Scan the QR code now and heed warnings from people like Warren Buffett. Protect your IRA, your 401k with tangible gold and silver. You might have properties and assets too, but how about 100% tax-free in these metals that have always stood the test of time, regardless of the leader, regardless of the form of government you live under. And we are the land of the free because of the brave. So scan that QR code now or visit freegoldguide.com/RSBN to receive that free gold guide. And no obligation. Just will bring you some great information. We'll also have an exclusive interview come Friday with Colonial Metals Group, and we'll talk more in depth about this great organization and how you can shield your savings now and heed the attacks, whether they be physical, mental, or even through reciprocal tariffs from the Chinese Communist Party, among others, who are trying to throw us off course. But be not afraid. Gold and silver, your go-to, and Colonial Metals Group, thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history. We sure are happy that you're able to join us on this beautiful Wednesday evening. RSBN Primetime live for you. Get all America First updates and exclusive offers at rsbnetwork.com/newsletter. It's your go-to, and if you can donate, we'd be very grateful because this is a new golden era, not only for our country, but for the new media, conservative journalism. At the end of the day, common sense, populist, America First. And you can donate by texting RSBN to 801-801 or by visiting rsbnetwork.com/donate. Thank you for doing so as we are fighting for you, just common sense people on the right side of history. And I don't even think of it as ideological anymore. It's not necessarily right or left, conservative nor liberal. It's the correct side of history. The side of history that wants to scale back a bloated federal government that had a citizen, President Trump, a businessman, come down a golden escalator that he created, literally, in the Trump Tower with his beautiful wife, our lovely First Lady, Melania Trump, 10 years ago. To say, you know what, I'm going to do this now. I'm the man for the mission. He's accepted that, and think about what the family has gone through. And you might be watching, you might not agree with the policies. I'm not sure why that would be, but if you don't, that's okay. There's always time to change your mind about it, as many have. And you might be watching thinking, wow, this man really has been through a lot. His family has been through a lot. Fake impeachments, the Russia hoax, the lawfare, the injunctions that we saw and we were covering just yesterday, all the way to 2 assassination attempts. But God has bestowed his grace and blessings upon the Trump family, and specifically Donald John Trump, your 45th and 47th president of the United States. And we're honored to be here on the right side of history. For all America First updates and exclusive offers, once again, rsbnetwork.com/newsletter. And there you have it, a summer soiree as the sun sets on our beautiful federal city. And whether it's in Auburn, Alabama at our studios or on the road in the Beltway, or anything that's in your neck of the woods, reach out to us. Feedback at rsbn.tv if you wish to opine. But as always, it's a pleasure to be with you here on this lovely hump day, Wednesday, June 4th, 2025. For all of my colleagues here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, I'm Robert McNeely. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night. God bless.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
You've heard how hard it can be to get access to medications like ivermectin, all the things they don't want you to take because they're actually effective and they don't cost all that much, right? You've seen that one before. So it's critical to have something like that on hand for any emergency and to be prepared in a time of crisis. And that's why I want to tell you about All Family Pharmacy. They're cutting through the nonsense and they make it easy to get hard to find medications when you need them most. They'll provide the prescription, no hoops to jump through, no waiting room, no hassle, and they deliver it right to your door. All Family Pharma even lets you order in bulk so you can stay ahead of the curve. Head over to allfamilypharmacy.com for 10% off your first order. Again, allfamilypharmacy.com. It's simple. Get the 10% savings. Be prepared.
To celebrate our newest launch, Rev 7, I'm bringing you an amazing introductory offer, plus an exclusive overstock sale that you're not going to want to miss. Rev 7 is our premium energy drink that tastes great and gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. That's because there's no sugar and no caffeine. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7 that for a limited time you can try our 3-pack absolutely free. Or check out our Percale bed sheets. I can't believe I'm even going to say this. Every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes only $29.88, even the queens and kings. Inventory is extremely limited, so order now.